Keeping a low level of unemployment is one of the four main goals of any government. The other three are to keep inflation stable and low, to encourage economic growth, and to pursue equity or fairness. We'll tackle each of these one after another in the coming lectures. Economists represent unemployment with a capital U. Unemployment occurs when people cannot find a job, even though they're willing and able to work at the going wage rate. It's a problem for economists because it means that there are idle factors of production, and that means that by putting those factors to work, we can make some people better off without anyone else being made worse off. This is called a Pareto improvement. We can show this improvement with a PPF. Unemployment means that we're operating inside the PPF, so reducing unemployment means moving outwards towards the PPF. More of one good without less of another. That is, no opportunity cost. Win. Unemployment is usually quoted as a percentage, which is calculated by dividing the number of unemployed people by the total of people in the workforce. Notice that the workforce is different to the population. Some people who are in the population aren't in the workforce. For example, you. But also those who have retired, babies, the prison population, and so on. Now you might be thinking, heck, the number of unemployed people is not going to be easy to measure. And you'd be absolutely right. There are lots of challenges here. One of them is that lots of people who do work don't get paid for it. For example, when your parents clean up the house, they're creating output, a tidy house, but not being paid. This is historically translated into sexism because women tend to do more of the domestic chores than men, and these chores are not paid, so the female wage rate does not take into account the value of the chores done, and thus understates the value of work done by women in the economy. Another challenge is that some people have jobs, but are willing and able to do a better job, or work for longer hours. I once took an Uber ride with a person who was a qualified dentist. He had immigrated to the UK, and he didn't yet have permission to work in the UK as a dentist, so he was driving a car around instead. This is called underemployment, and it's when a person with high skills is doing a low-skilled job, or when a person has a job so is not counted as unemployed, but would like to work more hours in that job in order to earn more. The unemployment rate doesn't take underemployment into account. One more challenge is that the unemployment rate is frequently quoted by politicians as a single national figure, but this disguises significant regional, ethnic, age, and gender disparities. For example, in 2015, Spain had an unemployment rate of 22%, but unemployment among 15 to 24-year-olds was 46%, so the headline statistic really doesn't show just how bad the situation was for the young. Unemployment is a big problem for governments because it's expensive, both in opportunity cost and in actual cost. Let's talk about the opportunity costs first. Economies don't benefit from the output those people would make if they were working, so GDP is less than it could be. And because they're not earning a salary, not only are they worse off, but also the government can't tax them and earn tax revenue. And this creates actual costs. Firstly, the government has to give the unemployed money in the form of unemployment benefits, and this diverts public funds from other avenues such as healthcare and education. Secondly, the distribution of income in the economy becomes more inequitable because the unemployed tend to be people with low skills and already low incomes. Thirdly, there is a whole range of negative social effects connected with unemployment, such as increased crime, stress levels, indebtedness, homelessness, and family breakdown. And importantly, these negative social effects are concentrated both geographically and among historically disadvantaged ethnic minorities. Economists have identified 4 different types of unemployment. The first is called frictional unemployment. This arises where someone is changing job. There's usually a gap between ending one job and starting another. This might be because you're moving house, looking for a job and haven't found one yet, or something similar. The second type of unemployment is called seasonal. This is where you move between employment and unemployment in a regular pattern over time. For example, if you're a ski instructor, you'll be unemployed in the summer, and if you're a golf pro, you'll be unemployed in the winter. The third type is structural. This arises where your skills are no longer in demand due to a change in the economy, usually due to technological change. For example, if your career is fixing DVD players, then you'll probably be unemployed because people don't really watch DVDs anymore. We can show this with the labour market diagram, where the supply of DVD fixers is compared to demand for DVD fixers. Due to a change in technology, demand for DVD fixers shifts inwards. This causes a fall in equilibrium employment. This fall in employment is called structural unemployment. This can also happen by geography rather than by industry, so there might be a fall in demand for workers in the north of a country. An economist would say that the north is now suffering from structural unemployment. Structural unemployment can also arise because of trade unions, which create a price floor on a wage, thus reducing equilibrium unemployment in that market. When a trade union does this, it is called a labour market rigidity. The price floor makes the wage downwardly rigid. Finally, there's cyclical unemployment. This arises due to the rise and fall in aggregate demand across the business cycle. So if you're unemployed because the economy is in recession, then you're cyclically unemployed. We show cyclical unemployment with the ADAS diagram, showing a gap between the current output level and full employment output level. It doesn't take a brain scientist to work out that the government is going to have to use different policies for each type of unemployment. Frictional unemployment can be reduced by subsidising people's job searches and relocation, and by providing better information about job vacancies. That's what job centres do in the UK. Structural unemployment can be reduced by the government subsidising retraining someone to have skills that are in greater demand than their current skills. So a coal miner might be paid to retrain as an IT worker, and the government pay for the training. Seasonal unemployment can be resolved by encouraging people to have a second skill set in a complementary industry. So if the ski instructor also becomes a golf pro, then they can find employment in the winter and the summer. Finally, cyclical unemployment can be resolved by the government engaging in large fiscal projects, such as infrastructure spending. If you've got a lot of idle workers, then their wages will be low, making it a great time to build some large infrastructure such as bridges, railways and roads. Finally, the dream is that the government can use the education system to give workers transferable skills. This enables workers to find work in many different industries. IB economics is one such transferable skill. That's it for unemployment. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Next up is inflation.